Hi guys, um, welcome to Antimatter Dimensions. So, um, just, um, the first thing I'm going to say is just for people who are a bit more into this game. Um, this save is on New Game Update, and the reason for that is because, it means that when I unlock Time Dilation, I can split the game into, the main game, New Game Update, and New Game Plus Plus Plus, and then just get to the end game in all three of the modes. But, those of you that aren't an expert, you don't need to worry about that. You're probably just going to search it up and sort of end up playing the main game, and, so, and I'm gonna have a series on all three of the different versions, plus many other incremental games. So, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Well, it's not really a big deal. But anyway, let's start here. So, what we have to do is we have 10 antimatter, we can buy a first dimension, and now we're getting 1 antimatter every second. So I just have to wait until I get another 10. And then buy another first dimension. And then I do that again. Each one gives me another antimatter per second. But then, as you can see, then it gets a lot more expensive. I'll just change the notation. If you're playing on the main game, you won't have to do this, but I'm just gonna change the notation to mixed scientific so that you can see here it's 10K. So 10,000. On the main game, it will be this notation by default. And I'm just gonna set the update rate a bit lower so that it just looks better and it's faster. So what I've just done here is I've bought second dimensions, which now passively produce first dimensions, so my antimatter per second is increasing without me doing anything. And now, as you can see, I can reduce the tick interval by 11% for 1000 antimatter, so I'm going to do that. Now the tick speed is 890 and the game is running a little bit faster. So I'm just going to wait for 10,000 antimatter because that's what it's going to cost me to buy anything else. And now, while we're waiting, let's look at achievements. So this first row is just buying the dimensions. But for this second row, we're going to have to do some special things. First of all, for this one, encounter 50 different news messages, we have to go to options and turn on the news. So there should just be an option to show the news, or it might even be on by default, but in this mode I'm just gonna do it like this: show hide stuff, show news ticker. And so I'm just gonna do that so that I can get this achievement. And the news ticker is pretty silly, just so you know. And I don't think there's anything else we can get for achievements. But basically, I'm just gonna be buying these different things. So I'm on like 10,000 antimatter. Oh, and by the way, in my main game, I'm pretty far. I'm up to quintillions of eternity points, and I'm working on the eternity challenges. I think it's doing Eternity Challenge 4 right now. But, for those of you that don't like spoilers, I'll not really say anything. I'll just keep buying these third dimensions. Oh, and by the way, you might see here that these things have multipliers. So basically, every time you buy 10 of a dimension, it gets more expensive, but it also gets a 2 times multiplier, because eventually you'll have a lot of these dimensions, and that multiplier is going to be the only thing that makes buying them actually useful. So as you can see, when I buy 10 third dimensions, they're going to become 2 times as powerful. That's when you manually buy 10. It's not when you get 10, because as you can see, these first dimensions are generating pretty fast now. And now I've got 10 third dimensions and the cost skyrocketed to 1 billion, so I'm going to work on getting these first dimensions. And by the way, the first dimensions produce antimatter per second, so if you get 10 of them and it gives you a 2 times multiplier, that will instantly multiply your antimatter per second by 2, so it's good for giving you an immediate boost. And now the next cheapest thing I can buy is this tick speed upgrade here for 100,000, so I just have to wait a few seconds and get that. And I'm almost at 1 million. Well, it's going to take a little bit to get to 1 million antimatter, but as you can see, I'm going to be able to buy my first fourth dimension. And I'm aware that there are more buttons here, but we're not there yet. I'll explain what they do when we get there. So, as for this news, my favorite message is probably the longest one, where he puts the whole game into perspective and he openly admits a really silly habit that he has. I don't really think it's a good idea to say, but it might just come up. It's really funny. So I'm almost able to afford a fourth dimension. And now that's producing third dimensions. I have 11 and I didn't buy anything. It's just gonna keep generating these third dimensions, which generate more second dimensions, which generate more first dimensions, which means even more antimatter, which means even more stuff. And now I have 2 fourth dimensions generating these third dimensions a bit faster. I'm just going to go to the statistics tab so I can show you. You've made a total of 4 million antimatter. You've played for 6 minutes. If every antimatter were this many atom meters cubes, do you have enough to make a proton? Later on it says, like, it would take you 2 days to write down your antimatter amount. And then it later, even later than that, it says, like, you would start in 5000 BC or something. So I'm getting these fourth dimensions faster and faster. And I'm almost at 10. This antimatter triggers me. What? Oh, by the way, there are only 8 dimensions, and there's this joke about the fact that the 9th dimension does not exist. And it truly doesn't exist. The only thing that can generate 8 dimensions is the player. So now I've bought 10 fourth dimensions, and so the next thing I'm going to do is work on getting these second dimensions. So, unfortunately, in the main game, which is probably what you're playing, the options tab looks a bit different, but you should be able to figure this stuff out. In this version, there's also a few more things, like more notations, but that doesn't matter. In the main game, this notation, probably the best notation, will just be the default. And there are also different themes. So there's Metro, which just looks a bit different. Okay, now I've bought 10. It will say here how many you've bought towards the goal of 10, and it will also say here how much it costs to buy the rest of the set of 10. I'm just going to get this tick speed upgrade. And then I'm going to show you the different themes. There's also the dark theme. And then there's the dark theme but with Metro. And then there's inverted colors, where even the achievements are inverted. Yeah. So in the main game, there will only be this row because this is new game update stuff, like I mentioned before. But there's also inverted metro, and then in this website there are 4 new themes. By the way, I promised to put links in the description. I'm gonna set the theme back to normal for now, but now I can buy some first dimensions. I'm just gonna show you these new ones. There's Eric's modifications, 2, Starstream, and Void. I don't like Void. It's a bit darker, like hard to see. I'm just gonna play it normally for now. Okay, now I've bought the rest of these first dimensions, so the next thing I'm gonna do is save up for this tick speed upgrade for 100 million antimatter. Hopefully at some point I'll get this achievement for encountering 50 different news messages. Wow, these fourth dimensions have generated 600 third dimensions. So for those of you who have some expertise in math, this thing with dimensions producing the one before it ultimately causes polynomial growth in the antimatter. I just like to jump between tabs like this. There's also secret achievements which don't do anything, but it's kind of fun to figure out. The first one's always free. I know how to get it, and it is pretty obvious, but I'm not gonna tell you guys. It's possible to get these secret achievements by accident, but there is one, which is this professional bodybuilder one, that should really be a regular achievement. I'm gonna buy this tick speed upgrade, and then work on getting these third dimensions. I made a total of 2 billion antimatter. So if you're a new player and you don't understand a lot of this stuff I've been saying, in a nutshell, if you go to the website, it will just be pretty much the same. And I call it the main game. If you go to the first thing that you'll find when you search up Antimatter dimensions, that's what I call the main game. But this is Eric's version with mods and stuff, and the options tabs looks a bit different, but you should be able to figure everything out. And because I'm on New Game Update, there's this new row of achievements. In the regular game, there's only this one, but as I said, when I unlock time dilation, I'm gonna sort of split this game and do the rest of the game in all 3 of the different modes. Time dilation is just a thing that you unlock really, really far into the game. Like, even in my regular game, I haven't got it yet. Okay, now the next thing is this tick speed upgrade. It just takes a little while to save up. By the way, the game does get faster. It sort of gets faster, then it gets slower again, then it gets faster again. And then by the way, if you see this bar at the bottom, a lot will change when it gets to 100%. Right now it's at 3%, but I mean, it will inevitably get to 100% in a few days. Now I finally have enough to afford that. So as you can see, I've bought a lot of first dimensions, and now they're getting an 8 times boost. Because whenever you buy 10 of them, the price of them goes up, but they get a 2 times boost. At the moment, it's pretty much mandatory to buy everything, and it will stay that way until this gets to 100%, and then things will change a bit. I'll explain everything as I go on. So, basically, if you're someone who wants to learn how to play this game, this is the series for you. You can also just copy everything I'm doing. And I'm not just gonna play Antimatter Dimensions or even the 3 different modifications. Well, I'm not just gonna play Antimatter Dimensions. I'm also gonna play Antimatter Dimensions New Game Update, Antimatter Dimensions New Game Plus Plus Plus, and possibly Antimatter Dimensions New Game Minus Minus, Cookie Clicker, and Infinite Layers. And maybe if I find another game that's really good. So I'm buying these first dimensions. There's also this max all button, but at the moment it's so slow that I basically just like to buy everything manually. So when I get 10 of these first dimensions, as I mentioned, getting 10 first dimensions gives you an instant 2 times boost to your antimatter per second. By the way, these numbers are going up way faster than in Cookie Clicker. It would take a few days to get billions of cookies like this. And eventually you can get to crazy numbers. For example, after nonillions, it will start using scientific notation, which I'll explain to those of you that don't know what it is, and then you can get to like numbers with millions of digits and stuff. So now I'm getting to 10 billion without too much time. And getting these second dimensions will definitely help. And there we go. Now the next thing is this tick speed upgrade. It costs 100 billion, but I'm getting there pretty fast. I still haven't got this. It might take a little while. Do antimatter people's suicidal thoughts get depressants? Some of these are just weird. Some of them are funny. Some of them are jokes about the 9th dimension. And I did mention that the longest one is probably the best one, because it basically puts everything in the game into the perspective, and he also talks about his weird habit, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it's really funny. And depending on who you are, it might be kind of gross, but I just find it funny because I'm 13. And now I'm saving up for this tick speed upgrade. It's gonna take about a minute, but I don't really care because, as you can see, I'm almost at 20 fourth dimensions. Then I'll be able to show you the next mechanic, and then I'm probably gonna wrap the video up. I'm at 600 billion. Wow, I've made a total of 1 trillion antimatter. So, while I'm waiting, I'll just let you know what this does, like, before actually showing you. So basically it resets you back to the beginning, but it unlocks the 5th dimension, and it also gives the first dimension a 2 times boost. And then if you do it again, it will unlock the 6th dimension, and then give the first 2 dimensions a 2 times boost. Then it will give the first 3 dimensions a 2 times boost, and then when you've unlocked the 8th dimension, well, not only will you unlock a new feature called Dimensional Sacrifice, and I'll tell you what that does when we get there, but you'll also, this will basically change slightly. I'll show you as well. So this is a percentage to infinity. Some point I'll tell you what infinity is, but, yeah, at some point I'll just let you know what infinity is all about. So as you can see, I got 11 fourth dimensions, and if I just get a few more trillion, hopefully I'll eventually have 20, and finally be able to do my first dimension shift. And then in the next episode, we will hopefully unlock the 5th dimension. Now I have 12. Wow, these 4th dimensions have produced 3,000 third dimensions. And these 3rd dimensions have produced 1 million 2nd dimensions. And these have produced 600 million 1st dimensions. And 600 billion antimatter. In our lifetime, it's 4 trillion. Okay, another 4th dimension. This last part is the slowest. But, there are a few parts of the game which are really slow and a few parts which are really fast. The beginning of the game is probably one of the slow parts, and it peaks in slowness around, probably in a few episodes, like around E110 antimatter. A lot of you probably understand what that means. If you don't, then I will explain in a few episodes when the notation sort of switches. Still haven't encountered 50 news messages. So, a lot of these achievements happen naturally, but a lot of them require something special. For example, in this second row, buy a single first dimension when you have over 150 of them. Usually you're just going to be buying it in tens. Have exactly 99 eighth dimensions. And there's one achievement that's particularly bad. Just because you could miss your chance to get it. It's this one down here. But we'll get it in a little while, like possibly a week from now. Oh, and look, we're nearly there. We're at 19 fourth dimensions. And, come on. Come on. And finally, we're at 24th dimensions. So I can reset the game for a new dimension in 3, 2, 1, go. And now these get a 2 times boost. So I think that now it's about time that I say bye and end the episode. But I think this is a cool game. I just like big numbers. Let me know what you think in the comments. Bye.